impressed you about the way the players performed in this series?
I think the important and the impressive thing for me was how we managed to keep the standards as high as we set them, both the first test and the second test, batting first. We found ourselves in a little bit of trouble against the new ball, and then how the youngsters, Luandre and Brevi, managed that in the first test, and the same in the second. We found ourselves in trouble, and then Vian played a monumental knock, and then on the bowling front, just the disciplines we were able to maintain throughout, and constantly keep the Zimbabwean batters under pressure. That for me was really, really impressive. And then obviously the catching yet again is something that we attach a high value to it, and the way we in the field we were really, really good as well. So that was particularly impressive for me.
Great. Next, where does Luandre fit in with so many middle order options? Did he put himself in your plans for the subcontinent test later this year?
Lose a special talent. Without wanting to jump the gun, I think it's hard to ignore what he's done here. So he's definitely in the discussion for the subcontinent later.
And then, what improvements has Cody made since that SAA series last year with Sri Lanka?
I mean, you can see Cody. You can see the value of a really good domestic season. You can see the value of a short stint with Durham in the counties setup. He's a completely. Well, it's not say completely, but it's certainly a lot more disciplined, really good skill set, and hugely impressive. Again, and we talk of gaining a measure of control. He certainly gives you that with a new ball, and he set the tone for us. So I think he's made huge strides since the last time I saw him playing for the South African A side against Sri Lanka, and he certainly put his name in the mix as well for future tours.
Now, what does Vian's declaration say about him as a cricketer?
It says everything about Vian. I know there's so much been said about it, and what do we normally say? We don't let the truth get in the way of a good story. All I asked Bessie yesterday, he came up, what are your thoughts are? And he said to me, I think we need to bowl. And I said, what about the record? He said, I'm fine. Let's keep that for the greats. And that says everything about Vian. It says everything about how he wants to play his cricket and how he wants to be remembered. I respect that, and I buy into that. We always talk about being the best versions of yourself, and that is certainly the best version of Vian. And I'm thrilled that he was able to turn in a performance like he did with the bat. Obviously the declaration, it's one of those, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't, so nothing I say will change that. But this is all about Vian Mulder and what a performance has been for South Africa. It wasn't long ago when people weren't quite sure whether he should even be in the side or batting at number 3. And it's amazing how the conversations have changed now. So I'm really thrilled for Vian. And I'm sure Vian is a really happy man now as well.
One last one before we open up to the floor is, were the openers you gave a chance to hear disappointing?
I think they'll be disappointed in the numbers they put out. It wasn't easy against the new ball, especially that first test match. But and I've said this plenty times before, when the conditions are tough and the bowlers are executing, we must be able to do tough as well, and we need to do tough better. So I think as a top order, they'd be hugely disappointed. Especially, I mean, the guy like Tony who's missed out in the final, come back in, and he'd definitely have wanted to put in a big performance. The same with Bredo. Lesego on debut. To answer the question, I think they would be disappointed, yes.
Larry?
Coach, there's a lot of talk, like, for example, from the different countries and stuff that come here about your intensity as a coach. How does this translate to the teams, to the players that come to your team?
I think we try and keep it nice and relaxed. We've obviously got standards that we operate at. But the big thing for us is that we want to allow the player to be who he is and play like he plays, and try and make improvements on that rather than based on what we feel needs to happen. So I'd like to think that the introduction of some of the younger players, I'd like to think that introduction has gone seamlessly, and I'd like to think that they felt a real part of this series win, which they obviously have given their performances. And I'd like to think they had a really good taste of what playing for the Proteas are about, and hopefully that taste lingers with them for a very long time.
In the last 3 matches, including the World Test Championship, you've worked with 3 different captains. How do you translate your messages between all 3 of them?
I think the messages are universal. They know that what we stand for. Obviously, everybody knows that Temba is the captain, and it's unfortunate. I mean, Temba was here for a couple of days. He obviously really missed out, and he'd love to have been here. But yeah, the messaging is the same. We don't change our messaging. The captains know how we want to operate. The players know what's expected of them. So it doesn't really matter who we hand the armband to. I think the messaging will always stay, quite stock standard.
Any further questions?
Just one more from me. Come back to local. One player was impressed. A lot of people played here. Sean Williams. What are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, well, he's still a hell of a player. He's a hell of a player. And I know he was feeling under the weather the last couple of days. I don't want to see him when he's fit and healthy. But obviously, Sean's been a great ambassador for Zimbabwean cricket. And he continues to show why he's still a top player, And we obviously knew that his wicket was always going to be a big wicket for us. And he made sure that it was, He's no surprise that he still performs the way he performs. He's still a top player.
Great. Thank you very much, everyone.